No. Okay, here's go live. Now I'm going to open, it says end broadcast. I'm not. Then I'm going to go over to YouTube Live. It says, try refreshing your browser or restarting your computer. For what? Okay, I did that. No, it says try refreshing your browser or restarting your computer. Okay. Okay. Oh, you know what? Oh, you know what? There was two of them up here. You had two of them. That's why I don't like working with... Yeah, that's why, see, I myself, I don't work with full screens usually, so I know what's open. And, yeah, so that, it was... Okay, so now, wait a minute, 125 Village, Walton Hills Recreation Committee, streaming software, public none. Where do I say go live on this? Or, I can 120, yes, okay, there it is, it's coming up. Yes. So it says end stream, and it says, I'm not going to end the stream. It does. Well, my wife just said I can hear and see, so it's up. Comment again. Yeah, I'm on the chat. She. Top chat, and I want to go, okay, I want to go live chat, okay. Okay. Yeah. All right, thanks a lot. Stand by. Okay, bye. No, she had, I work in Windows, so I know what's open, and she had them maximized, and I didn't know there was one behind, and I opened another one. Okay, so we are on. We still have. You're a minute early.
See? Dealing with residents and broken mailboxes and that sort of stuff.
A lot of broken mailboxes, I think.
Can't help it.
Yes. Oh, thank you. I got one here for you.
I saw.
We're going to wait another minute. Just, huh?
I said I saw that I do not have the email with the attachments today
Which email?
from the group of citizens.
Oh, oh, you don't?
I couldn't print it.
Oh,
Saw
I
it,
have.
but yeah, but I could not print it. So.
Here it is.
Pardon?
Do you need copies of something?
Here's mine. And then I have Sean's. Do you have Sean's? I sent you
No.
Sean's.
No, I didn't see that.
Oh, I sent this last week.
Did you?
You can take
Wait a
it.
second. Was that this one?
No.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Yeah, okay, I do
Yeah,
have
yeah.
that one.
This one?
I do have that one. Oh, I have that one. Oh, you got a copy of that? Perfect. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Good, good. Thank you.
Did everybody on this list, all these names, did all these people get this letter?
A version of it.
A version of it?
Yes, as we were moving through the drafts, it didn't change the date.
Okay.
They all got the latest one.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is 7:02 on January 25th, 2022. This is the Recreation Committee meeting call to order. We have the committee members here, Mr. Nielsen, Fred Nielsen, Jennifer Allen, myself, Brian Spitznagel. We've got Mary Delansky and Natalie Buck, our Recreation Director here. Thank you for coming tonight. First item on the agenda is the Assistant Rec Director position, Recreation Department staffing. We had met, 2 weeks ago now, was it? And talked briefly about, about this meeting and what issues you have on the horizon, things like that. So you can start us off if you wish, and let us know what you're thinking about these two or these positions, and positioning the rec department with staffing for as we move through the year.
Okay, as everyone knows, I don't have an assistant director right now. When I came back to work in October, Maya resigned. And so then we have an opening for the summer camp coordinator, who was the assistant director. A couple weeks ago, we talked, the mayor and I and Brian, and I had suggested maybe hiring 2 teachers to do summer camp, 2 adult teachers, instead of hiring an assistant, because Mary and I have been working together, and it's been working out well for both of us. Figured we could go forward that way, maybe pay a little bit more, for 2 teachers that are knowledgeable and have a lot of common sense, and have 2 adults there instead of 1. So that's what I had recommended. That's as far as we got, really.
I know we had mentioned with the getting the rest of the staffing for the summer parkers and things like that, starting the process now.
Yes, I'm gonna send out an email to see who wants to come back first.
How many did we have last year?
Oh, I don't. I do have. 18 or 19. I'm not sure all of these people came back. This might have been the initial list.
Okay. I've got some stuff as we move into the Parker program itself. But as you were talking about, I'm sorry, I was writing, the assistant director position. Can you repeat that?
How about,
As far as having Mary work with you, or needing somebody else to fill in?
I had recommended just keeping Mary with me, and we work on programs together, and then we could plan camp and hire 2 teachers, 2 adult
Okay.
teachers to kind of spearhead the summer camp during the 7 weeks. And we could meet with them before it starts, just to go over things,
Okay.
before camp. And we would oversee it.
You would oversee the
Right.
summer camp. All right. So that's all you need is for the rec programming for the summer is
For the summer,
Mary,
yeah.
and we'll put out feelers for 2 adults, teachers,
Right.
or somebody with that type of experience to work, to actually be down with the Parkers, and while the Parkers are there, you know, either at TG Young or at the lake. Does anybody, does anybody have any questions on this?
Not a question, but I think the
Or
teacher
comment.
idea is really good. And
Yeah.
I think having a teacher in charge of the program and strictly that is a good thing. I had talked with Mary and just asked her how it was
Mhm.
going and stuff, and she said she would be more than happy to work between the village hall and the rec department with Natalie.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's, and 2 teachers would help alleviate some issues that we would probably have with the Parker program too.
They know how to talk to parents, they know how to talk to kids,
Mhm.
they have common sense. They just know what they're doing.
And if
They know how to be a
Parker,
leader.
right, if a
Mhm.
Parker
You know,
isn't going to
you don't
participate
have to train
in a
them.
field trip, then at least you have one adult still there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think that would be a good idea. I personally, I think we need to talk to Lori from HR about writing up something.
I can do that too.
Okay.
I already talked to her about calling the other counselors back, that I wanted to start doing that now because it's hard to get staffing.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard to get staff to do special events last year, at the end of the year.
Mhm.
We had a hard time staffing, you know, the events we did do.
Right.
So I want to get the process going as soon as possible.
My thoughts also, Mr. Chairman, on the 2 teachers is I wouldn't offer an hourly wage. I would just offer a salary.
A summer salary?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I put together some numbers just to, you know, to kind of go by. $15 an hour times 50-hour weeks would be $750. Depending on if we extend the Parker program longer weeks or not, we could offer like 15 weeks worth of work would be $11,250. I don't know, $11,500 for each of them for a summer job. Is that a decent amount for a teacher to make?
Well, I used to pay teachers, we hired them for summer camp. We used to pay them an hourly wage because they're part-timers.
Mm-hmm.
I think the ordinance has to be adjusted a little bit. Not sure, but I was reading through it. Right now, it currently says assistant director. So,
Mhm.
But I don't know if you have to adjust that or not.
Well, we have seasonal employees.
They're
In
considered
260.
aides, nobody like in charge, you know,
Right.
a lead person. So I don't know if that has to be changed.
We can take a look at it,
Yeah,
but
we can check with John.
I think seasonal employees, it may fall under there. That might be good enough without a title, you know? I don't know. That's something I'll write down. We can ask John Montello about.
Sure. I just thought that a salary,
Yeah.
you know,
well,
instead of having to worry about hours with them, and this week they're working 35 hours, you know, because they're going to work more hours during the summer with the Parker program,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but this would,
Brian, how do
cover
they,
some time
yeah,
before
well,
that.
how do they do that with the service department part-time? Is that basically the same thing?
It's hourly with
It's-
the service
part-time
department,
is
but there's,
always
in
hours.
260, it's just seasonal employee.
So it's basically the same, it would be the same?
Yeah, it just, we'll have to make sure with John Montello, but I think that it would probably fit, because if you just put them in under seasonal employee, and, you know, rather than giving them a title. To change. Angela Reve says we'd have to amend 260 to add a salary, because there are no salaries in there if we wanted to go the salary route. And would counselors still be hired? Yes, counselors would still be hired. Okay, so That's on your agenda for right now. I'm looking for the two teachers, talking to Lori from HR
Yes.
to see how that fits in. We'll talk to John Montello about 260, and seeing if there's needs to be anything done in there. Do you remember what type of salary range you had for those teachers over in Independence for the summer?
They're at, a lead teacher right now there is $14 an hour.
$14
Yeah,
now?
we used to hire teachers all the time. And we
Okay,
had lead teachers and then some newer teachers that helped also.
okay,
They just didn't get paid as much.
okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And we could, we could do it 5 days a week if you wanted. Most camps are 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Do we have any other questions or comments about these positions before we move into the Parker program specifically? All right. Does any resident have any comment or question about the assistant rec director or the positions for right now before we move into the Parkers? Okay, seeing none. The Parker program, and I distributed this to the rest of the committee with the information that you copied for me. Some changes that you'd like to make to the program itself, if you'd like to go over those for us.
Sure. Well, I know we've talked about doing 5 days since I started here, which was almost 2 years ago. We didn't do it last year because Maya was new. If it would have been Carlene, I probably would have done it. But because it was her first year, we just went with the 4-day. So hoping with the teachers it'll work out really well and we could move to 5 days. They're used to doing that anyway. So I would offer a 5-day camp and a 3-day camp. And it would be a full-time or a part-time. And we could make the part-time the 3 days, the 2 days we go to the lake and a field trip, which would be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which would be the part-time. And just have one fee versus charging for camp, charging for crafts, charging for each field trip. It just there's so many fees.
Mm-hmm.
Usually camp is one fee and everybody goes. You don't leave anybody behind. If you leave half the group behind and half the group goes to the lake, for example, you have to have good supervision. And we only had one adult the last 2 years that I know of. It just makes it easier for supervision.
And this would run from June 13th to July 28th?
Yes, that's the 7 weeks.
Was there any thought of having it go longer than 7 weeks?
We probably can go a little bit longer, but I know a lot of the kids go back to school.
When I looked at the
You weren't
calendar,
into that.
I thought maybe August 12th. That would just be like 2 more weeks, the first 2 weeks of August. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
you
know
start
that could be
You start to
helpful.
lose staff, and we get them from all over,
Mhm.
so that's the only problem with that. Maybe I'd go 1 more week if you wanted to try it and see if it works.
Mhm.
But you start losing the staff.
Now, you said about all the events just being included. Would you include also the golf lessons?
The golf lessons, I wouldn't include in the price because
Okay.
somebody's really got to be interested. We don't get that many people that are interested.
Okay.
And it's a big chunk of money.
Have you thought of the cost of this for this season?
Well, when I added up, I haven't called about the field trips. The only one I've called is the golf outing,
Mhm.
the golfing classes rather. He's supposed to send me a quote. And I haven't called about the field trips. We were going to try to do something different. I wanted to ask the counselors their opinion of the field trips, what they liked, didn't like. So I did reach out to them late last year to get their opinion on how camp went as well. So, but we haven't done that work yet.
So the registration is the month of March, basically.
Yes. And what I want to do this year, which we talked about last year, is giving it, letting the residents sign up first, because all the residents signed up last. So I want them to sign up the first 2 weeks, offer it to them, and then anybody, I think we were going to do grandchildren for, yeah, then the third week, and then non-residents, after that.
Ray Whedon, one of our councilmen, of course, says fully licensed teachers often have the opportunity for summer school at their going rate. Could student teachers be considered for the summer camp positions?
Yeah,
Yeah.
teachers are the best counselors,
Yeah,
even if they're just studying it.
sure.
But, when you add up the 4 trips that we had last year, it comes out to like $100. So that would just go into the cost of the camp. And everybody goes. That would be my suggestion anyway. We both talked about it, both agree.
How many residents did we have last year?
Oh,
And versus non-residents and residents that had their, that were grandkids of residents?
so we had 21 residents, 20 non-residents, and 17 grandchildren.
21 residents, how many residents?
20 non-residents, and 17 grandchildren, total of 58.
I was looking at the latest revenues and expenses. Now this was presented to us on December 14th, with the budget proposal. The income and the expenses for the Parker program. We've got the income from last year of $24,134, budgeted for $25,000 this year. Expenses, now I'm taking it, Angela, if you could write in, the Parker program here, expenses for last year was $7,890.50, but that does not include the counselor pay. And if you could text in, Angela, if you heard that. We've got seasonal salary here with the recreation department of $24,689. Now I know that sometimes they weren't used just for the Parker program, right?
They did cleaning.
They did cleaning, yeah. So they're used for more than that. But as I'm sitting here thinking about the Parker program and getting costs in line with revenues and things like that, we've got, and I'm just throwing this out, 29 non-residents as of last year. And as far as I'm aware, the Parker program is usually around 50, 60 kids, somewhere in that neighborhood, historically throughout the years. But what I'm throwing out is, would we want to consider not having non-residents and just having residents and grandchildren of residents? Because if we're running, my thoughts as I'm sitting here is, I don't feel like, if we can get close to break even or something like that, but I don't know if it's right to subsidize a program for non-residents.
Well,
I owe
technically, the
nothing.
grandchildren are non-residents,
Well,
too.
yeah, but you're right. We could just do it for residents. But if we're looking at costs and things like that, and if we do reduce the amount of people that trips are also included in those expenses. That includes crafts, t-shirts, snacks, and miscellaneous incidentals.
That 24,000?
that 24,000, Angela, because that's not on that line. It's, the 24,000 is on the line for seasonal salary.
Well, that's just salary.
So as I'm sitting here, I'll reiterate that if we're running a program at a deficit, do we need to run that program for non-residents?
Well,
And I'm
Mr.
just
Chair-
throwing it out. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I think that the costs need to change drastically. I hate to say that word, but it is. Right now, full-time camp was $260. There are camps in other communities where 1 week is $500.
Right,
And it's just a 5-day, 8 to 5 camp.
right.
Um,
Yeah, the costs, there's no doubt the costs have to change. I was thinking that as I was reading this myself, but as I go back to the non-resident issue, we get 2 teachers and we have, just like a classroom, if you have more quality time with that counselor or that teacher, if there's less people there, you know, per capita. Easier to control, you know, rather than having, you know, kids running all around if that was an issue last year. And you're going to have that all the time. But if you have less kids, it may make the program a higher quality program. And I don't know that. I'm just throwing this out for a conversation.
Well, Mr. Chairman, when I was looking at this and stuff, and I had made a few phone calls, and sorry I don't have those notes with me, but I also had talked to Natalie about a lot of these other communities charge on a per week basis. And that way, parents and families have the chance to say, oh, 4th of July weekend, we're going to be gone. We're going to Ocean City for 10 days. So they would not have to pay for that week. But comparing us to other programs, I think if we went from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m., because the program right now is 9 to 4, and I don't know very many parents that work 9:30 to 3:30 to be able to drop off and pick up their kids. I think a reasonable price for our residents would be $100 a week. It's $20 a day. It would include the programs for them and stuff too.
Yeah, right now we're charging $200 for the entire 7 weeks.
Oh, it's 200? I thought it was
No,
260.
Right here, 200.
200, not including the field trips.
Mhm.
So,
But
I
that
mean,
adds
it
on like
really is
another-
low.
Yeah.
I mean, Independence, it's been 125 a week. They're going up this year to 150. Finally, I mean, it's been like that for a long time.
But I just think if we're going to make changes, then we should make some good changes to make it more beneficial for the parents also, you know, so they have the 5 days. I know that my brother pays how much for a babysitter for that Friday,
Right.
you know, every single summer and stuff, and 4th of July, you know, and stuff too.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
there's-
usually, parents look at it as daycare.
right.
And most camps are open a lot longer than that.
So I would very much suggest doing some research and figuring out some appropriate rates for the Parker
I already
program.
did that,
Oh, look
Got
at
it.
you. Yeah, there you go.
yeah.
What do you got?
Macedonia does 125 a week for residents, 140 for non. Valley View, which our driver, is, Louise, she runs that camp, plans it and everything. She charges,
That's Valley View you're talking
Valley
about?
View, yeah. hers is not by week. Hers is by child per day. $30 a day for a resident.
$30 per day.
That would come up to one.
That's 150 bucks a week.
And then a
Yeah.
non-resident is $45 a day. Actually, just got that one. And I had already told you, Independence is 125, they're going up to 150 per week. And I looked into Bedford. Where's the rates here? They have it by camp. 8 weeks, 525, whatever that is. I didn't do it by week.
$525 for 8 weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's less than 100 bucks a week. About 80 bucks a week, something like that.
Does Independence have a non-resident price at all?
No, they only do residents. There's too many kids in that community. They have over 100 kids. 65, is that per week? Per week.
Mhm.
So that's Bedford. And then I have somebody else in here. That's it. We called Twinsburg, but we didn't get a response yet.
Seven Hills is 180 a week for members of their rec center in Seven Hills. And transportation to home, from home to the park and park to home from residents. When our kids were there, the van picked our kids up and took them down. Do we still do that?
We didn't do it this year because I didn't have a third driver, and there was only very few kids that did that.
Okay.
So to put them on a bus wasn't economical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
It's
know when
mostly because
Johnny
I didn't
was,
have a driver though.
when Johnny was
Yeah.
in the program, you had to drop them off and they would bring them home.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we were doing.
So
We did it not this past year, but the year before, when Carlene was here. But I had Fred at the time.
Right.
Well, this is, sorry, correction there. Independence is, oh, I'm sorry, Seven Hills is 150 for members and 180 for non-members. So we're significantly below everybody.
We're at $28 a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Well, and the non-resident fee is a lot higher than the resident fee. The non-resident fee is $600.
That's still less than $100 a week.
what are we doing now? Residents $200 for 7 weeks. And we're considering going, we're still doing through July 28th?
Yeah, I mean, if we want
So
to add a
that's
week,
7
we can
weeks.
add a week. I can try it.
Mm-hmm.
You want to try adding a week?
I would try it. I mean, if we're going to make changes, I say make the changes and rip off the Band-Aid and see how it goes. It's the only way we're going to know.
Okay. Well, that's, like you said, residents $200. If we're going to keep them from 9 to 5 for 8 weeks, it's obviously has to be a lot more than $200.
Yeah.
We can't, again, plus if we're having non-residents in the program.
And 5 days a week.
If we, not 5 days a week, I don't want to subsidize even more, non-residents.
Well, when I look at my spreadsheet of what we took in for camp,
Uh-huh.
it came out to 24,000. That's non-resident and residents. So that covered just the staffing. It sounds like. I didn't get that report, but it sounds like we just covered staffing.
Mhm.
Everything else was subsidized, pretty much.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, Angela says just be budget conscious about staffing for adding a week since we already passed the budget. So, I mean, we can always amend the budget, you know,
Yeah.
if that's the case. But if
Well, I
that's the
don't
case
think-
also, and the revenues are gonna increase too, the overall
Right,
impact shouldn't be
right.
anything.
And it's just 1 week of the seasonal employees. I mean, they were making 9-something an hour, most of them.
That went up 50 cents this year.
Yeah.
Everybody will have to go up. Anybody that was making, I don't know, wage.
Mhm.
So you would offer, just to recap on this, you would offer a 5-day program and a 3-day program. All fees are included except the golf.
Right. So we're gonna
Um,
make it easier.
Yeah, we're not doing à la carte things, just one fee for each of those, right? If I had a child and I chose the 3-day program, obviously that fee would be less, right? Correct?
Well, that's gonna include all the field trips, so,
Yeah, but is it gonna be, let's take here, $200 for 7 weeks. If we offered you're saying my child could go for 5 days for $200 or 3 days for $200? Is that what you're saying, or are you gonna have 2 different fees, one for the partial and one for the full?
yeah, we'd have to have 2 different fees.
That's what I would think. Yeah. Well, just talking about the full,
Or we just offer the 5 days and do it by week. And then, you know, most people want 5 days
do
anyway.
you think you can, that's a good idea, as far as implementing that idea? How are we going to pay, like I'm a resident and we are doing it by week, you're not expecting a check from me every single week?
No, it has to be paid in March.
Yeah, it would have to be paid,
I'd have to have it all
Oh,
planned.
yeah.
Because they want to know who's coming on a field trip.
exactly, okay.
I would have to, and that's what we did last year.
So as Jennifer said, if they were gonna not be there for 1 week, they would just take 1 week's amount off of the check that they're gonna
Right. We
put
just
in.
tally what they were going to do.
Yeah, you could probably include on the application for the kids, you know, like which weeks are you going to be there, or to, you know, somehow on there to designate what weeks they would not be there, and
Right.
then just tally it up right then and there when they pay. And yeah, the Parker program was always paid ahead of time.
Junior Parkers included in this? What we're talking
Oh,
about
yeah,
here?
yeah.
This is all Parkers and Junior
Mhm.
Parkers, okay. I would suggest bumping those fees up to at least, from what I see, 125 to 140. It's like I would say $100 a week for residents
Mhm.
and more for non-residents.
We do have our weekly fee on here already.
Where is it?
If you look underneath the full 7-week camp, the 200, underneath that area, it says part-time camp fee.
1 to 6 weeks only. Oh, okay,
So if you
residents
wanted to pick-
125 per week.
Yeah, if you wanted to pick which weeks, those were the prices that we had. I think that's been going on for,
How many people, well, that's a lot more than the,
yes.
why would I do that if I was,
We didn't, and actually, nobody did that.
It makes no sense, yeah.
yeah.
Right. But that's how it's been, as far as I know. But nobody ever took advantage of that because it is more money. They pay
Yeah,
the
and you
whole
say get
amount
rid of
and then
that
just
whole
not
thing.
show up
You
one
can
day.
almost just follow those prices even for the weekly. And I mean, is it beneficial to have a part-time camp at all?
It was an option if somebody wanted it, but we don't have to. I think most people want 5 days.
I think if we streamline it as much as possible,
Yeah,
you know, why make it more complicated?
Right.
yeah.
Just like adding in the fees, you know, for everything, just helps to.
Yeah, you had your non-residents at 600 for full-time, so that doesn't make any sense at all.
Right. I think if we streamline it and just do the Parker program, it's a week, this is what it is. If you're gonna take a week off or 2 weeks off, you pay per week. And
So I could offer just those weekly prices that we already have. If that covers everything. I guess I'll ask Angela for that month's report.
yeah, if we offered it, it's on here, $125 a week for residents, $150 per week for non-residents. I'm sorry,
Grandchildren.
that's grandchildren, and non-residents, $225 per week.
There's not much of a difference between the grandchildren and the residents.
Right,
There's a $25 difference there.
right.
It's
There's
a place
not
to
a,
start, though.
yeah, there's not a cap for the number of campers as far as,
We did do a cap in 2020. Carlene had a cap on it
Well, I think we had to.
because of COVID.
Yeah.
And then last year, we did have a cap of 30, but we got all non-residents, and then the residents signed up afterwards. So
yeah,
we ended up at 58. So that's why we want to make sure the residents get in first. We'll have 2 weeks to get in, and then.
yeah, and you have to plan your staffing too, which is harder these days to
Yes.
do.
Natalie, with the staff that you have, what is a good number? I mean, is 58 a good number, or 68, or?
I think the norm was 60.
And how, and now,
Just depends
was
on how many I
that,
can get.
when we met, you had indicated that, maybe it was the mayor. Oh, and speaking of the mayor, I am not going to make the announcement, but he wanted to be here tonight. This is his news to tell, to broadcast. He very much wanted to participate in this meeting tonight, and he had a family issue. And
family issue.
a good family issue, and it's his news to tell, so we'll leave it at that and let him at our next council meeting tell his news if he so wishes. Getting back to the Parkers, with the number of kids that we had, I know we were talking about some of the counselors weren't getting like enough hours for the week.
That's what I found out.
Yeah, so,
They were
I can
working
tell you
half
that some of
days.
those counselors were getting 1 day a week.
yeah, so how do we alleviate that? I know if I'm a kid and I'm trying to make summer money, that's not gonna last long for me, getting 1 day a week.
Right.
I think she hired everybody that pretty much interviewed, but we would look at it. And, I mean, I'm hoping we can get enough people, so,
Okay,
yeah. And if I know who's coming back, that would be a good start.
okay.
Would you consider maybe like a rotating schedule for them? If however many hours a week we would keep them, like some of them from opening
Yeah.
till midday and then midday until closing?
Yeah, I think in the interview process, I would ask what they're available, because a lot of them had different jobs
Mm-hmm.
too. So,
Yeah, we'll schedule them a little bit more efficiently for them, so to fit within their thing, but use them,
Right,
you know.
right.
They
I
just
think a lot of
want,
them worked half days, from what I understand. Right? That's what I heard.
yeah. So that needs to be fixed.
We could probably even put a schedule together for them for the whole summer to work around their
Definitely.
vacations and stuff too. That
They
way
should-
it's
they
not
should
every
know-
week
Yeah,
coming
they should
out.
know their days
Yeah,
ahead of time. Definitely. I wasn't involved in the scheduling or the interviewing, so.
yeah. All right, well, yeah, that needs to be fixed and done better this year then. So recapping the Parkers for now, what we have, we're gonna move to a 5-day, offer one more week. Increase the fee to, let's see, what did we have here, 125 per week for the residents. Grandchildren of residents, 150 per week, and non-residents, 225 per week.
Okay, let's see, makes it easy. And then,
Right.
did you want 8 to 5 or 9 to 5?
And we're gonna, what was your suggestion? It was
My
8 to 5.
suggestion was 8 to 5, because if somebody, works 9 to 5, they can ostensibly, one spouse can drop them off on their way to work, and the other one can pick them up, on their way home, so. They would need to have, nobody works 3:30 to, or rather 9:30 to 3:30.
Right.
For a 9 to 4.
Right.
Most people don't.
Angela said Meyer was trying out rotating them on a more part-time schedule. We had almost 20 counselors, which was close to the same number we typically had on previous years, just a different setup of hours. So I don't know if that helps or not, but I think scheduling the kids, because I know if they're only getting an hour or so a day or whatever it is, they're going to lose interest real fast.
Yeah.
We keep non-residents, we don't keep non-residents.
I think the price is gonna be higher, so if you're gonna keep, I would keep
They'll
them.
cover the
Okay.
costs.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're gonna be covering more of the cost than the resident or the grandchild.
Yeah. Are we planning on doing transportation again this year?
I don't have an extra driver.
No extra driver?
Um,
Okay. So it'd be the same as last year.
Yeah, very few did it since I've been here.
Now, when they go out on on their outings, who drives?
Well, I have Mark that drove the big bus, and I had Maya that drove the little bus. Oh, and the field trips? Sorry.
On the field trips, yeah.
Bedford schools, they drove them.
Bedford schools drove them. Do they charge us for the use?
Oh, yeah, they charge us for the use of the buses. But on the lake days, I had Mark, my driver, and then Maya drove the little bus.
Okay, so this year you don't have Maya, so who's going to drive
Well, we could maybe train somebody
this
to do
year?
that. Or I'd have to hire another driver.
Uh-huh.
You don't need a CDL to drive the little bus, but I would still be very leery about who I put in that bus.
Sure.
Those kids.
Well, one thing I would be concerned about is we drop off the kids wherever they're going. Let's say they're going to the lake, we drop them off at the lake. We don't want to, we want the number of counselors, and as you said, if we can get 2 teachers there, we want that staffing there as opposed to, I know Maya was driving around,
Right,
but
was our
that
only
left
adult.
nobody down there.
Exactly.
So that, yeah, that can't, there needs to be,
So I probably would have to get another driver.
Well, I think if everything's being included, it'll be easier, right, to move everybody.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, on lake days, you shouldn't have to have anybody left back at the pavilion.
You shouldn't.
If all of that stuff is going to be included, those campers, even if they're not swimming, could still be down there. There is some playground equipment for
Oh,
the
sure.
kids and stuff, but I think trying to keep everybody together as much as possible in one group to manage
I'm gonna ask Sean.
would be easier.
Because you're at the lake. 'Cause we were gonna bring everybody to the lake.
Yeah, I mean, there's more than enough room to have the full program
Uh,
down the lake. Is that what we're
Sean said there's more than enough room. I'm just trying to get you on the recording, to have all of them at the lake. Okay, yeah, and I just don't want to get into a situation where we're short-staffed where they're leaving and doing
Exactly.
2 things and going back and forth, so. Okay, so we'll.
Now, just
go
one
ahead.
question real
Yeah.
quick. You have here 9 a.m. drop-off, and you want to go to 8? Is that what you
It
said?
sounds like that's what we're trying to do, to get more coverage. through the
And
day.
then your 4 o'clock to 4:15 pickup, then you want to go all the way to 5?
Sounds like it.
Okay. So
Yeah,
we're-
that's what,
So we're adding those hours on.
adding those
So,
hours on.
How
But this
many,
is-
how many, yeah, but how,
Drastically.
I understand, but we raised the fee, but here we are adding the hours. I'm just looking at that. How many people do you have when they, to drop off? Do you just have one person there?
I
Or-
would probably need another driver.
And then how about pickup? You have one person, two people, or, how does that work when the people come to pick up their kids?
Oh,
Well, I think when the parents drop the kids off at the park and they pick them up, the parkers are already there.
Yeah, but all of them?
No, because not all of them work
Well,
every day.
that's what I'm just looking at the hours that we're adding because we just
You're adding
raised the.
10 hours a
Right,
week.
and you're over 7 weeks. You just raised the fee and now you're adding hours, so.
Yeah, you're adding 80 hours. If you
yeah,
go 8
because it's another
weeks.
day,
And
and
that
2 more hours.
Times how many, that's what I'm getting at, times how
Oh,
many
yeah, it's another
people.
day, I forgot about that, yeah. Yeah.
All right, so-
Well, it depends on how many
But if we're
applicants we
raising
get, right?
the fee from $200 for the entire 7 weeks
Yeah, what does it come down to?
to $125 a week, that should more than cover it.
Yeah, well.
That does help.
Just wanted that to be,
So it went from 200 to 1,000
For,
for the summer.
for the summer?
Yeah, be 125 times 8,
Mm-hmm.
substantial increase.
it's 8 weeks.
Yeah, times 125.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can tell you that change would have more than covered Johnny's salary while he was in there, because he didn't even make $1,000
Mm-hmm.
as a Parker, as a counselor.
Mm-hmm. And again, I kind of feel bad, we went from $200 for the residents for the entire program
Right.
to
To
1,000. That's a big jump.
Yep.
It is a big jump, but it's within line of other municipalities too.
But you've included the field trips too, and you've got another day and 2 hours more for
Right.
each day.
Right.
And that includes going to the lake and
Yeah.
Sure, going to the lake.
then the lake covers
And the lake, we paid for the lake.
I-
We don't charge the resident
Sure,
Right,
that
or
comes
the
out of a,
non-resident.
right, we-
Yeah, so
we
that's
give-
included,
yeah, that's that's separate,
yeah.
okay.
so what do I have? Do I have a recommendation to take this to council as far as these changes we're making?
It's Natalie's running it, and if she's comfortable with this and she thinks this will work, I'm for it.
What do you think, Natalie?
What's that?
These changes that we've discussed, do you think they're workable? Do you think the fees are in line? Should we reduce them a little bit for the residents? Keep them what we just said? I don't mind the non-residents at all, putting it at $225 a week.
Yeah, it went from, because $200, when you do it by week, it's $29 a week,
Yeah, $29 a week is what
which is
residents are
$7 a
paying.
day.
Yeah,
Right, well, that's what I was
Which
thinking
doesn't cover it.
initially for our residents, $100 a week, because it's $20 a day.
yeah, I'm fine with that, $100 a week.
And then we could go with the other prices, $150 for the grandkid and $225 for the non-resident.
All right,
So we're switching.
So
them.
100 a week and then 150 for the grandchildren.
Mhm.
A little bit of a difference.
100.
It's better.
Yeah.
Angela said we paid $295 this past year for transportation for 4 trips. This does not include golf lessons, if I remember correctly. So other municipalities don't have any problem charging for their programming. And I think we need to be in line with, not that we want to overcharge, because we're not. But we want to make the programming close to at least supporting itself.
We can run the numbers, we can call some of the field trips and see what they cost. Just
Yeah,
sure.
that's what they were
Okay.
saying, just going
I'm
to
sure
beach
they went up.
prices.
Oh, I'm positive.
That's why I said this, let's make this just
I went
200
to-
instead for our residents.
Oh, yeah. that's-
Wendy's for lunch. My wife is going to kill me because I got a small Frosty with my lunch. It's $14.
Wow.
And I had a cheeseburger and fries and a drink. It was $14.
You could use to go on a diet.
It was the Frosty that tipped it over.
Oh, yeah, that 99-cent Frosty.
So we have $100 for residents per week. 150 for grandchildren, residents' grandchildren per week. And $225 per week for non-residents.
So the 225, which is the non-residents, instead of excluding them, you're charging them 1,800 for all 8 weeks, which was $600.
Okay.
So that's you're gonna want to either send your kid pretty bad, or
Yeah.
you're just gonna find someplace else.
It probably
But
would still be cheaper. than
Where,
probably
yeah, I was gonna say,
everybody
where else are you gonna
else.
go
Yeah, they can
cheaper?
go, they can go to Macedonia and pay 125 or 140 a week. Well, let's see, that's non-resident. Yeah, it is 140 for non-residents there. We'll have to run the numbers
Yeah, but they
to
do
see.
just resident and non-resident. There's none of this middle
No,
grandchild
no.
thing.
Could you run the numbers this week and
Yeah.
give us a report
We'll
of
start calling
what
places.
that looks like as far as the Parker program as opposed to the expenses?
The Valley View non-resident, $45 a day is $225 a week.
That's Valley View?
Mhm.
Oh, okay, 225? Okay,
Yeah.
and we're kind of like, ours kind of resembles theirs.
Mhm.
I was just asking her to run the number.
All right. So you're going to get, Natalie, you're going to run some numbers for us.
Mhm.
And
I think the golf lessons is staying the same,
Okay.
because I already talked to him.
But that would be a separate,
Yeah, they
Fee
would have to pay
altogether.
for that, and we just get a few kids.
Okay.
Is there any preference on how many field trips we take? I mean, we only did 4 last year because of COVID.
Yeah.
We have 8 weeks. Do you want me to do?
do they still do the movie program, Tuesday mornings? Cinemark used to have a program. It was
Mm-hmm.
for 10 weeks, I think it was $10, and every Tuesday morning you would go. It was a rerun movie, you know, it wasn't a brand new movie, like they would play Madagascar or something like that. But you could get the summer pass, it used to be $10 for 10 weeks, or it was $2 if you just went individually on the days. I don't know if that's something that you might,
I know Louise mentioned that to me. Was it Macedonia or Valley View that did it? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
One of them did it and one of them didn't, and I don't remember what she told me.
I think it might have been Macedonia.
Well, I
That
would
did, but-
definitely look into that.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a summer movie club that they have at Cinemark. You know, it's something else for the kids to do in the morning and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like last year, they didn't come to the event center at all,
Mhm.
and there were some really stormy days, and we didn't have a projector. We have the projectors back, so, you know, on those stormy days, should come back to the party center
Mhm.
and not sit in the pavilion.
Yeah, I would prefer my child not sitting out in
Yeah.
a thunderstorm.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't bother our parents when we were
No,
around.
not at all.
You know, I wanted to
Why are
ask,
you home? Get
I
back
have
over
a
there.
key to the church on Dunham Road, and I was told that they use the gym there.
They used to. I don't believe we use that anymore.
Well, do we
used
still
to
have
use
the
it.
opportunity to use that?
I don't know, we can find
'Cause we
out.
still have a key for that place.
Well, yeah,
But
I can.
I don't know anybody that works
Okay.
there, but I can call them
Yeah,
and see. I mean, it would be nice to have a gym,
Yeah.
another, activity.
there used to be basketball, I believe it was once a week.
Adult basketball.
basketball. And we used to have, before we had the place over here, we used to have like Halloween over there and certain events over there. Okay. Can we move on? Does anybody in the audience have any thing to say about the Parker program? Nope. Okay, seeing none. We'll move on to the hall rental.
Because I'm going to rewrite the whole line.
First thing I want to bring up about the hall rental is our codified ordinance, at least what's on the website as of today, does not match the rental fees that we're charging.
No, it's worded differently.
Well, the numbers are different. For example, the community hall or multi-purpose room, that's the same. That's a deposit of $150, and it's $100 per day for the community hall or multi-purpose room. The fee for non-residents is $300 plus a $50 cleanup fee. That agrees. For the
No, we
banquet hall?
This had non-residents that wasn't available for,
Okay, well, this,
so that would have to, something would have to change.
well, in 1062.02 banquet hall use rules and regulations, it states, the cost of the rental shall be $600 for residents and resident organizations, plus a $150 cleanup fee, and for non-residents, $700 plus a $150 cleanup fee.
Right.
So those aren't accurate.
They are just worded differently. When you add the two
Huh?
numbers together,
The
it's
$150
$850,
fee
It's
is
in there.
Oh, you have the
automatically added
$150 fee in there?
to make
Yeah.
it $750 and $850.
All right.
Yeah, and I was confused when I first read it too. There's a security deposit that's $150 that we give back.
Well, I was thinking about, I'm glad you corrected me on that. Because I'm thinking, oh my God, we overcharged people for, but as I'm thinking about this ordinance, I think that it might be a halfway decent idea to change the wording in that to take out the specific fee and just state that the fees will be determined by council and the mayor from time to time. You know, some wording like that. We have other ordinances that are worded like that. So every time we change something, you may change it again next year, the fees. Then we have to go back and rechange the ordinance, right? And we're considering changing the rental fees now, correct?
Me? No,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well-
the only thing I wanted to change are the highlighted on the rules page.
Yeah. Let me
Some of them
find
are
that
ordinances
thing.
and some of them aren't.
Right. I gotta find it.
Well, I think a lot of us were in agreement, though, that the rental fees need to change themselves.
Right, yeah. At least for non-residents, I don't think we're,
Yeah, the mayor had mentioned that.
yeah, I don't think we are in line with other, now, where is that?
Do you need this one, Brian? You need-
Yeah, that's what I'm looking
Here,
for. I
go
have
ahead,
it all
use that one.
apart. Thanks.
probably got it. shown
Oh,
in
you
there
know what, I
somewhere.
have it here. I just found it. Thank you.
It's the one with all the highlights.
Yeah, it was under here. So, I got this other paper here. Considering the hall, both halls over there, about how many times it was rented and used. And I'm the only one, I believe I'm the only one here that was here when we bought that place. I don't believe, Fred, you were on the
No,
council at
no,
the time,
no,
and I know you weren't. To get off on the right, or, you know, on the same page with everybody, what we were doing when we decided to buy that place was increasing our recreational prospects for our residents. It was not, just like T.G. Young Park. T.G. Young Park is not a profit center for us. T.G. Young Park costs us money to operate every single year. So it was never intended to be a profit center as far as rentals. Obviously, it can defray costs, and we can operate a good program to do that. But it was never intended by that council, me included, to have a profit center. And as a matter of fact, we cannot have a profit center.
Right.
Otherwise, we would have to start paying taxes on that property. There's certain IRS rules. So we can be in line with how the place is rented with other places. If I'm a resident here and I want to rent that place and it's just as much money to rent as Sherwood Forest or Birchwood, I'm probably going to go somewhere else. I don't know. So, yeah, we want to be competitive, but we also want to offer our residents that opportunity to rent something where they couldn't get anywhere else. And also use it for, obviously, recreational programming. So, 2020, the year of COVID, 2021 was the year of COVID too, but 2020 was the bad year of COVID. The village used, for village functions, that building 32 times. There were 27 rentals. 18 of those rentals were non-residents. And in 2021, as of the last one we have here, through October of 21, the village used that place for village functions 44 times. There were 33 rentals. 14 were non-residents and 19 were residents. So it is being used. Obviously, it can be used more, and we can increase the programming that as we go through this year and go through our meetings. Hopefully, we can increase our prospects with additional programming up there and things like that. We've got some good ideas from residents, and as we move through this, let's say we're talking about kids programming, I'd like to invite some people to give us, with kids, to give us some ideas of what they would like to see. Senior programming, I'd like to ask some seniors what they would like to see, and people who actually use the facility. I know a lot of people have never been in the place. But that's what I'd like to do, get some input into that. I know Natalie you did come up with a community survey, activity interest survey, which I think is good. Does everybody have that sheet? We can put this in the next journal. When's the deadline for the next one? Or has it passed?
Well, the deadline hasn't passed for February, so it's
Today is January 25th.
yeah, so
My schedule for next month just came out today.
I understand. I understand.
Okay, so we can get it in the March. It's not that big of a deal at this point. We can put it in the March. And I would suggest putting it in more than one, and having it in maybe several months in a row, because people don't see it. Surveys, to me, we've only had one survey here that was statistically relevant out of all my years of doing this, and that was the county put it on. And it happened to be about our recreational programming. Other than that, we can get some ideas, but in no way, shape, or form would I design something or go in one direction based on the input of a few
Right.
people. I mean, the last election, the interest for electing your representative was 17.8% in the
Right.
village of Walton Hills. So I don't have too much faith that that any interest survey is going to be statistically relevant, but we can get some good ideas. And we have had some residents email us with some ideas, and we can always improve, and that's what we're here for, to improve the
I
program.
mainly did this for myself when I first
Uh-huh.
started here. And I
Uh-huh.
have a tally,
Uh-huh.
and I actually tallied it up for you.
Oh,
If you want it. That's what most of the interest was, but that's mostly seniors.
yeah, see,
People that
mostly,
come
Right.
to the lunches.
Uh-huh. right. Oops, sorry, people. Bingo. We used to have bingo over here in the community room for everybody, not just seniors. It was a village-wide thing, and it was packed every time we did it. I think our now at that time, of course, the village Ford plant was still going, and the village sprung for the prizes and things like that. I think it would have to be like you'd have to pay to get in, just like you do everywhere else, to play bingo, if we were to do it for the whole village. You know what I mean?
I know the laws have changed with the bingo, since the casinos came in.
Yeah,
You have to charge like a minimum.
yeah, well, it'd have to be minimal, but there'd have to be some sort of, you
Yeah.
could say it's for the food or whatever.
But that's still a big interest. There were 17 people
Yeah,
that
right.
were interested in it.
We had morning card games,
I
conversation
did do
time.
morning games, left it general. Unfortunately, I got sick and I wasn't here, but from what I understand, not many people came. And the person that suggested doing that
Never
she used
showed
to go
up.
to Independence. She knew we did it there, and she wanted us to do it here, so I did it, and she didn't even come.
Yeah,
So-
that's disappointing.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
tried it for, 6 months? And it didn't pan out. I mean, we got a few people, but that was it.
Yeah. Let me back up to a question we had about the Parkers. Would there be a multi-child discount?
There is one now,
For the Parker
and I
program
know
fees?
Valley View does do a 50.
I don't have
They
any
do?
problem with that.
They do,
We do one now.
I say Valley View does,
Valley View does it too.
how do they do it?
$50. I think we did the same thing. I don't know who.
Off of the
followed who,
entire
but,
program? Or per-
For each child, they got a $50 discount.
Per week or for the,
I'd have to look and see. I don't remember.
We'll have to,
I think it was just a flat 50. That's how we did it last year.
just a straight
And I
one
think
time.
that's exactly what they just, if there's a second child, they got $50, and then a third child, they got $50 off.
okay. Okay, so I see, well, Amish country there in lunch, dinner at a restaurant, but I'm actually more concerned, these are good ideas, about activities in that center, so that's used a
Yeah, I
little
did this
more.
more for the seniors, what they wanted.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Once-
sure.
Once we went back to normal, which we still haven't, but but it's still.
Exercise classes, that was one of the suggestions, other than yoga, exercise, self-defense classes, things like that.
Mhm.
I had several people ask me about line dancing. We had talked about it with Natalie.
Mm-hmm.
I see you had a couple people, but they're not the ones that,
Or just couple,
Yeah, I was
or
gonna put
adult
on-
dances, I know I know
No,
teen
that's-
dances are put down, but adult dances too. I like cutting the rug every once in a while.
he hangs out at the speakeasies.
So, we'll put this interest survey in the journal. Can the OWL can we have this put in the OWL also, just in
Are you
case?
gonna pay for it?
Don't we pay for pages?
Oh, you pay, yes. Currently for one page, the police blotter.
Okay, well, we'll have to ask,
So you'll have to check with council on that.
we'll have to check with council. Do we get a discount for 2 pages?
No.
So we'll put this in the journal for now.
Do we want to do it exactly like this, or because this is all, as Natalie said, pretty much geared towards seniors.
Yeah, it was
There's
for
not a lot
me
of
to
family.
work off of.
Well, I guess,
Like, I can tell you, Mr. Chairman, when I was going around campaigning this past fall, we've got a lot of little kids in the village now.
yes, we do. We have a lot
Yeah.
more, yeah, exactly.
But, so the village is starting to make a turn, and a lot of parents, when I asked, expressed an interest in a routine date night.
Yeah.
Like a 6 to 4. Maybe, they said they would be happy to know if it was just 6 times a year, like every other month. But to know that that date was up and coming, where they could make plans for themselves, whatever it may
Right.
be, and stuff, so.
Well, only thing I can say is I'm part-time.
Right.
Well, right, yeah, we have to have the staff to
Yeah,
do all
The
that.
one goal I had was to make our department open 5 days a week and 2 part-time people working it. So I took the morning shift, I worked there till 2, and then the assistant director was gonna work 11 to I think 4:30. So we
Okay.
could be open for a full day,
Mhm.
5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that starting, I think it was December of 2020. Although I was by myself for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thank God Mary's there now.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Yeah, all this would be contingent on hopefully we can get some feedback from stuff from the survey. It doesn't have to be exactly like this. This is a very good start, though. I would, we could take the next week, the committee and you guys, and kind of tweak this for the general population and see what we come up with for our next meeting, because we'll have a meeting on the 1st. And get something out.
Mr.
Go
Chairman,
ahead, yeah.
I would like to go back to the changes that Natalie wanted to talk about making.
Yeah, we
And
did. We
one
kinda skipped
suggestion
those, yeah.
that I had was renting out both rooms. The contingency would be an officer is required at every single event. And so we would have 2 officers up there to keep the 2 parties separate. Is that something that you think would be feasible?
Well, we used to do that for COVID. We started doing one because of the parking lot issues. Had a lot of complaints about the parking lot and the bathrooms. Having one set of bathrooms
Mhm.
during COVID we just figured we would just rent one side. Some people do rent both rooms. So if it's one party, they can rent both rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a lot of the weddings. We did a lot of weddings, especially this past year. And that building was rented sometimes Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in one weekend.
Mm-hmm.
You do have in here in your rules for setup, if it's residents only, and you changed,
It never got changed in the ordinance.
no, it's not changed in ordinance, but in here, if you need to set up the day before your event, you will need to rent the rooms ahead of time, or you can take a chance that the rooms will be available the day before your event. And I think it's changed, yeah, you need to set up the day before if you need to set up the day before your event, you'll need to rent the room.
I could tell you why that
Why?
we worded it, because we used to have Gary, who, he met with the people.
Right.
Rented the rooms. Okay, so I started in May, late May. He got sick in June. I took over renting the rooms, and then he got better in August, and then we decided to just part ways, because it wasn't busy at the time. It
Mhm.
wasn't even worth hiring him.
Right.
So what was happening is he would meet with them and he would tell them that the day before was available for them for free, and that's not in the ordinance. So we had to give it to him because that's what he had told them for a lot of those rentals. So, and especially the weddings,
Mm-hmm.
because they bring a ton of stuff in.
Right.
So, we honored that, but then when we got past that, we didn't do that anymore. And I would tell people, you have to rent it. If you want it the day before for a rehearsal, or you have to bring in stuff, or you want to set up, you gotta rent it. So I'd at least let them rent the little room,
Mm-hmm.
so they could do that. And so that's why we wanted to reword that. 'Cause
Mhm.
it was kind of vague.
Mhm.
I do agree with that. And I do agree with, I see that you changed it, that an officer will be there for every event
And I can tell you
regardless.
why that also, because Gary used to be there, or he would hire somebody else to be there during the event.
Mhm.
Now, if they don't have alcohol,
If
or
they
they don't have
say
75
they don't have
people,
alcohol.
Exactly.
Or they say they don't
People
have
lie.
75.
So we wanted to just make sure somebody was there.
Yeah, oh, no, I agree completely.
And
Personally, I think that is
that's in
a
the
better
ordinance.
safety issue for the key also.
Right.
We have the officer there from when they're there, until the last person's gone, and they're the one locking the door.
Yeah, and that's in the ordinance, and that 75 person number is in here. The 150 is not in here, but the 75 is in there.
Mhm.
We wanted to get rid of numbers, because right away, they'll say, oh, we're only having 70 people.
Right.
So we caught on to that. So that first highlighted one, but police officer, that it's an ordinance, that has to be changed.
This has to be changed for the events
Yeah,
having
if you-
75
yeah,
to
if you wanna
150
do that.
guess.
And you know where it says 2 weeks? That's in here?
It's changed to a month.
We want to change it to a month because we were chasing people down at the last minute for money.
Well, then they don't
Literally,
get the key for the
4 o'clock
door.
the day before.
Why are you chasing them down? They just don't
wouldn't-
get in.
They would not come in
Yeah.
and pay.
I'm sorry, door will be locked and you
Yeah.
won't be coming in.
It's hard to do when it's a wedding.
Well, that's their problem, not ours.
Do we
It's
know
hard.
that $35 is a good number still? Is that written in the ordinance, or is
It's
the?
not in there.
Okay, so
But
the-
it's probably best not to put that in there.
Right.
Is it
I was
probably
gonna say the
could
ordinance
change?
should stay just current, or overtime pay, however it's stated in there.
Yeah, and the rental hours, the only reason we want to reword that is because they think they have to be cleaning up at midnight and 11, so we don't want, we wanted to make it pretty simple for them to understand.
There was a lot of confusion about the end time on the rentals.
Yeah, and then that means the police officer's not getting paid after midnight.
Yeah, so you
So,
change that
is-
wording,
yeah.
everybody's got to be out by midnight or 11 o'clock.
Midnight on weekends,
11.
11 o'clock during the week.
Yeah,
Right.
it's Sunday.
So we'll have to bring that up at the first council meeting, that we need to change that ordinance to put a police officer there all the time. Would that be our recommendation? As far as renting also the hall, I know we had discussed the fee for the hall. Do we want to, the mayor had brought up, do we want to restrict rental of the hall for a year or so to only residents? Or keep it residents and non-residents? And this is why part of the reason why I wanted to see how many residents and non-residents. Again, in 2021, there were 33 rentals. Non-residents were 14 and residents were 19. And I know there was some issue with residents wanting to rent it.
It was already booked.
Huh?
It was booked a lot.
And it was booked.
Well, I think if the non-resident fee goes up, so it's more in line with other places, the resident fee should stay the same. I would just hate to see us lose potential.
Yeah, I would too.
And that was part of my reasoning too, with if we can rent both rooms. And in fact, with talking about the officers being there, is it necessary at all, do you think? And I don't even know, I had just mentioned this to Brian Schroeder just because I talked to him today. I'd really like to talk to Rob to see, but it may not even be necessary to have someone from the service department there too, in case something goes wrong.
Or maybe at least on call.
And if we have an officer there, then they would be able to, have dispatch, call, but the cost of that should also be included in the contract, I think.
We, looking at what we did last year, we did, through October of 21, the rentals was $35,206. The expenses was $45,000, not including the payment of the note of $35,000. Again, it was rented 33 times. There's a potential for 154 times for that thing to be rented. If it's rented every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday throughout the year, that's how many Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays there are.
I will say a lot of those were rescheduled from 2020.
Exactly, yeah. And there were some cancellations in 2021 also.
Oh, it was, it went like this, depending on what happens with COVID
Sure.
in December.
Yeah,
We're
you
getting
can't, it's 2 off years, you can't base anything on,
If we did 35,000 last year, that's pretty good. If a normal year was 39 to 41,
yeah.
that was pretty good.
Yeah.
There were times it was bad.
As far as renting the program, I got on the website and there's a thing on there about the rent, the hall rental and stuff. And it has you call for more information. Could we, and I don't, I'm the chair of the information committee too, so I guess I'll talk to myself.
There you
But could we put a calendar, subsection in there, to put a calendar in there so people can see the days that it's rented? Not necessarily to who or to what, but it's, if you go on VRBO or something, you see it and you're looking at a condo, it's rented those days, it's rented those days, it's open these days. There doesn't have to be any information on there as far as who rented it or what it's for. It's just that it's available or it's not available.
Okay, first of all, our website, we don't own our website.
I understand
It's owned by
that.
the county, and it's very limited what can be put on and done with it.
Mm-hmm.
And one person does the website, other people do the rentals. So you've got multiple people doing different things. So that means you need good communication between all employees to list stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it changes day to
It
day.
changes daily. The other day I had someone call, they came in, did all the paperwork for one room, Then they went and they decided to change it that same day to a different room. So the stuff is always changing. People call and they want to come in and look, so they tentatively say they're gonna come in, but then they don't rent it or they change their minds. So it would be a lot of upkeep to have to keep updating whether it's available or not available.
Well,
And
could you make it unavailable when you have deposit in hand? You know, and point blank tell people, you know, it's still available until you can take as long as you want to make up your mind, but it's still available for rent until you give us a deposit.
That's how we do it in calendar anyway.
Well, that's what we do in Outlook right now.
I don't know how would you look
I don't know how you get it on the website, honestly.
Well,
We don't have a database.
you know, we can, well, exactly, and that's something, it's not gonna get fixed now, but if the village has to look for another provider for a website, so we can go into our own website and change our own website. Because we've
Easier.
talked about things last year that have not been changed yet, in the
Because-
information.
Because of the
committee.
county.
And it's because of the county. So, you know, if we have to explore pricing to do our own website, and to get that type of information up, do you think it would be useful? Do you think that type of information,
I think they still need to call us because they have questions. When they call, they ask a lot of questions at the same time.
uh-huh,
We can't take a credit card. They have to come in person to pay it.
Yes, they still
It's
have to
check or
come in.
money.
oh, well, yeah, they
I
would
mean,
still
it's
have
not
to
like
come in,
You could sign up and
right?
do anything.
Well, we can explore that and
Mhm.
think about it, and maybe it would work, maybe it wouldn't work. As far as renting to residents and non-residents, would you consider let's say July 1st is the date that this room is open. Residents have until, I don't know, 2-3 months prior to rent it, and then it gets open to non-residents?
It doesn't work for weddings.
I know it doesn't work for weddings here, they're building weddings way, you know, yeah.
They're booking at least a year out for a wedding.
Well, I
Yeah.
have a friend that already has a book date for May of '23.
Yeah.
You know, that got engaged over Christmas.
Right. I had somebody call today for January of '23.
And
So-
some, I had somebody from Maine.
So,
But, you know, we've been kind of following like a January 1st, we've been letting people rent ahead of time. We did that last year. And then we opened it up in April for the fall.
for the
Remember?
following year.
We've
Yeah.
kind of been doing that, so we don't book up too quickly, like we didn't rent out for 23.
Mm-hmm.
But we could open it up as of April 1st, you know, maybe for residents, because I did have somebody call today.
Or open it up prior for the
We're
next
getting a lot
year?
of calls now.
Were those people residents by any chance?
Some of them are and some aren't.
Mine was, yes, it was.
Some are and some, I had to tell one guy that wasn't in the city.
What is the primary, is there a primary reason that most people are renting it? Is it weddings? Is it birthday parties? Is it?
When we were doing non-residents, it's mostly weddings, and they're the first ones to book,
Sure.
because they're way out.
Yeah, residents, it's a lot of showers and birthday
Yeah, the
parties.
last minute.
Right,
They're booking now for March,
Yeah.
yeah,
you know, so they're never gonna get ahead of that.
right.
There's a wedding there.
So do you
Yeah,
have
that's
more
true.
residents, are they booking the larger room or the smaller room?
Multi-purpose.
Smaller.
The smaller one?
It's cheap. Yeah, and they're smaller parties. If they're bigger parties, we tell them they have to.
So it's mostly non-residents that are renting the bigger room?
Yeah.
Okay.
You could say, well, Saturdays are reserved for weddings only. You know, we could do something like that, and then everybody else would have to leave Friday or Sunday.
Well, how about our time is starting to run short, how about we think about that for the week and come back on the 1st and see if we have any ideas about that.
Yeah, see, that makes a big difference to me if we're going to only rent to residents. You know, if residents are primarily only renting the small room, you can only have so many baby showers and.
Natalie,
Just the baby showers, or wedding showers, or like birthday parties.
do you think that would work, just weddings on the Saturdays like you
I mean, if you wanted
suggested?
to include non-residents, you could kind of limit it, that way. It's like weddings are always on Saturdays.
A lot of people are moving weddings to other days of the week though, because
Yeah, I'm going to
Most-
one on a Friday.
most rental halls are more expensive on a
Well,
Saturday.
we're not though.
Right.
And we were one of the only ones open in 2020. And
Right.
Macedonia was closed down again. in
Well, and we
December.
seem to be a lot less expensive than many places,
Mhm.
by almost half with some of them.
All right. And we do, where are the places we currently advertise that place?
We haven't been advertising during COVID. Before, we were doing it in the, advertising in the journal, and I was writing stuff on the sign, the electronic sign.
But there is a website. It's on the front
And we do have a
page.
website.
And you could click on it and go right to that page.
Right, the journal sign, but somebody would have to specifically come to the Village of Walton Hills website and see it. Uh-huh.
No, if you Google, the event center has its own website. If you Google the Walton Hills Event Center, it'll come up.
It'll come
It's
up.
own- It's not.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
because it's a search, it's a Google search, it's not its own website, it'll lead you to the Village of Walton Hills
No,
website.
No, there's its own Walton Hills Event Center.
Yeah, when you click on the link, there's, yeah, that site comes up, but it's within the Walton Hills.
You could Google it and it'll
Well,
come
I
up.
know you can Google
But
it.
it doesn't go to the village
Yeah, it'll go
homepage.
right to it.
It just goes straight to
Oh,
it.
I understand that, yeah, but
But it's
that
still-
page resides on our,
We have the
it's
link.
not a separate web page where we're paying a different entity for that page.
I believe it is. I can check on that. but I
Check
believe-
on that.
I believe it is.
Well, if it is, then there should be no issue with
Being able to,
being able to
do stuff with it.
do stuff, yeah, with it, as far as like getting the dates, you know, the calendar correct with the dates that are
Looks like it
being
hasn't
rented
been
and things
finished,
like
though.
that.
Mhm.
Somebody started it and didn't
Mhm.
finish it.
Yes, it does look like it hasn't
Doesn't
been
it?
finished.
Yeah, it's not finished.
Well, let's find out about that. Because if we need to advertise that more, if we're going to keep with renting it to non-residents, I'd like to have it linked on other communities, maybe other communities' sites or other entertainment sites or whatever, you know. But we need, you're only part-time. We need somebody to answer the phone for that.
Well, we do that now.
Yeah,
Then
or
we-
you
we
return the calls.
actually- We took Gary's phone because everybody was coming through that cell phone.
Okay,
And we changed the message and they know if they call that phone, I don't even answer it. It goes right, then they call me
Mhm.
and I pick up. So they do call. I've been doing the rental since June of 2020.
okay.
And Mary was doing
I
it,
was
now she's doing it again.
that. Yeah.
And that was just Maya and I at one time.
Okay.
Natalie, would you recommend trying to rent both rooms at the same time?
No, we had a lot of complaints.
The way the bathrooms are in the center there and all that?
No.
Yeah, well, even without COVID, the way people are intermixing and stuff, and we have issues with people going into another room when they shouldn't be anyways.
The other problem is like, when you have nobody there or staff there, and you have a rental on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you don't know, like, if you have damage, you don't know which rental did the damage.
Right, well,
And- I'm sorry, Mr.
Go
Chairman,
ahead.
but I think that's a reason why we need to have an officer there and
But they
possibly,
won't tell you either.
possibly one of the service department guys getting paid overtime, you know, to be able to watch that stuff and
mhm,
handle that stuff. If that's something they would even be willing to do,
right.
you know, I don't know, but, and the cost for them would be something else, you know, that would be paid for by the renter.
Yeah, I would come in on Monday and I'm like, okay, this is broken, I don't know who did it.
Yeah, but that's
There
why
was 3
we,
rentals here while I was
yeah,
gone.
well, Yeah, but even if you have somebody there, they're not gonna be able to watch every single thing that's
Right.
going
No.
on either,
No,
so.
but they could sweep the room at, at the end of the night, the facilities and stuff, to make sure everything's in.
Yeah, we can have somebody do
And
that.
then if somebody, somebody else does it Saturday night, after it was used Friday night, everything was fine. Saturday night, somebody comes in, party's done, have possibly a service department guy sweep the rooms again to make sure, oh, hey, why is this toilet overflowing and why is this cabinet busted? And, we would have village personnel checking that.
Mhm. We can bring it up, we can bring that conversation up with Rob to
Mhm.
see if the manpower allows that. First of all, if it
Well,
doesn't,
if they would be
if anybody's interested
Right,
in
if they
it.
would be interested, but to me, it would also be overtime for them that, like I said, whoever's renting would be paying for them to be there. Or at least
Well, I don't know.
an hour or 2 hours of their work would be
Yeah.
included for them to come afterwards,
Okay. The last thing, I know we had some emails and stuff about the rental facility over there, and that I know. Sean, did you have anything to say that we didn't already say for this evening?
I think from.
You have to, can you do me a favor and come up to the mic, please?
I think from listening in the back, it would be helpful to maybe hear top 5 obstacles. And I heard some of them, some with scheduling, communication. I think from my perspective, some of them could be solved knowing what type of technology you're working with. That was the first time I looked at the Event Center webpage. I think it has potential in helping you save time in marketing and scheduling. I think the more effort you put towards something that a lot of people could reference, it'll save your time, maybe answer some questions. I mean, I do realize that as much as information you put out there, you're still going to answer the same questions over and over and over. Maybe if you could link into that website, put just more tours, just make it easier to give visually more information to a potential customer. And then it looks like someone created that website. Again, I don't know how manageable that was. Someone mentioned, maybe offering to have the service department on site, maybe just incorporate that cost into the rental and give it to them as a bonus. I think anything you could do to give your current employees the option of making a couple extra bucks would help you. And then just more eyes on the facility. I think it would be nice to just see those costs offset a little bit more.
Sure.
I think it would be a joint effort, coming together to make that happen. I'm thinking about my notes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
I agree with you.
What?
And
Go
then
ahead.
I think also like some of the extra costs, I think your base prices, I think you get your business because of the prices and the Saturday availability. But then just looking at where your biggest expenses are, maybe where your biggest problem children are, and then just passing on those expenses to the renters,
Mhm.
kind of in an a la carte fashion.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. I know one of the big things too is, these companies that do the catering. I mean, all they do is cater. They don't have a hall and I I don't know if you could maybe, address them directly. Put it out there that Walton Hills has this available. I don't know if you get the same, do you get the same caterers a lot for weddings or,
weddings and stuff?
yeah.
I don't know who the caterers are.
No, you don't,
Sometimes they tell us, sometimes they don't.
you don't keep out, there's no
They
list
all-
or anything.
They, a lot of them had event planners too. So we worked
Well,
with the event planner.
Yeah,
They had somebody come in and do everything.
again, there's got to be some type of list or something for event planners and, and go after them maybe a little stronger and go after the caterers a little stronger and, let them know that we have this place available.
Well, that's, the event planner pretty much, they worked for multiple, they would bring people, especially because we were the only ones open.
Yeah, no, that's,
And they would bring multiple, I got to know them better than anything. They were bringing their customers in. They were telling them about us.
Okay. Do you have anything more to say on that?
Not on that, Mr. Chairman, but I don't know if I ever, because Fred gave me this that he
Oh.
had, and I know we don't have time right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just wanted you guys to maybe look at it. It's just the pickleball court. I've had a lot of people asking me about this. I guess this is a big thing for seniors, and so Mary was kind enough to print up the dimensions, and
Oh, Mary did this. Thank you, Mary.
she printed it up on the desk. And, are you kidding?
I thought you got pretty good here all of a sudden, compared to those stick figure drawings.
I am pretty good when it comes to drawing, actually.
But looking at this, Brian, did I ever forward that email to you from Matt Dolan's office?
Yes, I have it here.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to be sure that I did.
For the recreation things, yes, as a matter of fact, I brought it with me. It's somewhere in my pile of paperwork here.
Okay.
And-
Yeah, I have it.
And we will investigate that for recreational activities that are paid by his office. We've
Yeah.
tried, I
Community
know our engineer
recreational.
tries, all of those, what's the word I'm looking for? All those things that come up from the
Grants?
government, the grants and the
Well, this is
stipends
the,
that they have.
biannual state bond funding,
Yeah,
specifically. And I don't think the lake would be eligible for that,
I
right?
did
Because they're,
apply, right, no.
Because they're
Well, I don't
private.
know about the lake. I did apply for a Cleveland Cavaliers grant for basketball court.
Mm-hmm.
We have not heard about that yet.
yeah, but maybe that along with one of the tennis courts and a pickleball court.
Yeah, and that tennis court, and that area down there will have to be addressed, this year.
Because this is such a small area that it could be actually,
It could be anywhere down there.
could be overlaid anything. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just, so it's,
Yeah. The last thing is planning needs for upcoming events. We touched on this with the planning survey. We'll try tweaking this before our next meeting and come up with something. We have several that I did pass out, recommendations, ideas. I have some of my own that I wrote down that we can talk about next time we meet, and maybe doing something. Now, on your agenda, Natalie,
this was just.
upcoming events, like right now, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, do you have anything in the works for those
Just for
days?
seniors lunch.
Just for seniors?
Yeah.
When you overrun,
And that's all set? You don't need any,
bigger and bigger.
that's all
I
set?
just do a little, only half of them are coming in. It's
How many are coming this week,
23,
are eating in?
23 coming in, 23 pickup, and there's like 15.
Yeah, not many. I would like to see that, if you go up to McDonald's or Burger King or anywhere in the morning, there's usually a group of seniors sitting there for their morning coffee and chat. I'd like to move it down there if we had the personnel to
That's
open
what the
it.
morning games was about.
Yeah.
Have them come in and have coffee.
Yeah, and
Sit around and play pinochle, whatever.
exactly.
But
Well, with
Work
COVID,
and
people are,
independence.
yeah.
We had like a
I think it was the timing. I think it's just the timing of it, but that's something I'd like to try in the near future. And we can talk about all that other stuff at our next meeting. I can put that on the agenda and we can talk about that stuff. Is there, so, to recap tonight, we've made some suggestions about the Parkers. We'll bring that to I'll write this up and I'll bring it to you guys first. Okay it all, and then we'll bring that in a report to the council as a whole, the first council meeting. The Parker program's increasing the fees.
Have to check with John Montello about the season employees in 260.
Checked it with John Montello about the seasonal employees. Here we go. We have to check with him.
Yeah,
how
and would
that
we want to
work.
do that as salary, so we're not having to worry about hours for those two teachers?
Right,
Potential teachers, hopeful teachers.
okay. Salary or hourly? Natalie's going to run some numbers for us with the rentals, and have that, could you have that for the February 1st meeting, please? Thank you. We have to figure out where that key goes for the church if they want us. Maybe they'll allow us to do that. Yeah, you can call them. We're going to tweak the survey. We have homework this week. See if, keep it to one page though. We'll keep it to one page. Think about ideas, whether we want to keep that renting the room to non-residents as it stands now. I know the mayor would like to, this is our recreation, any community's recreation program is for the benefit of the residents. And I know where he's coming from in that, to benefit the residents. And the question is it worth a shot to see, to limit it to residents and to see, or is there a way we could limit it to residents for a time and then open it to non-residents to make some money on it?
I will say it was very hard to do when Maya was not in the office, but it was so many weeks.
Right.
Having me there by myself, it was very hard
Yeah,
keeping up with all those rentals.
yeah.
When we had non-residents coming in every week.
Right, but it seems that the non-residents are the majority of the rentals.
This year, again, actually, there were 14 non-residents, 19 residents.
Right.
So in 2021, there were more residents than non-residents.
Right, well, in
But
2020, you said
more
there was...
non-residents
But I will
rented the big
say,
room.
There was in April when we stopped renting to non-residents. I went on vacation, I came back, and we weren't renting to non-residents anymore.
Oh,
So
okay.
that could have affected the numbers.
Right, well,
It did
because
seem
in
like a lot.
2020, it was 18 non-residential rentals and only 11.
So it'll be almost a year that we haven't done that.
So those numbers, non-residents were only allowed to rent through April in 21.
Yes.
Right. Well, unless they had.
And,
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
like
they
they already
had-
had a previous
Yeah, they
contract.
might have.
We
previous-
honored contracts that were already like done
Yeah.
before.
okay. And we're gonna look at the website for the room and figure out what's going on there. And for the information committee, figure out what's going on our website also.
Are there any other questions?
Are there, yes, we are in a pandemic. Are there any other things you guys want to talk about tonight?
I just had a question. I was wondering if we were doing anything to fix the tennis courts or the basketball courts. Is there anything?
The basketball court is supposed to be removed.
Okay.
I thought they removed that, didn't they? That's.
They were supposed to. I have
Yeah, I don't know.
not had word that they actually did it, but they were supposed to remove it. And wherever we place, if we do get funding from the Cavs, that'll have to be talked about, because that's not a conducive place for the basketball court, right in the middle of everything to begin with. It never was. So,
I mean, is there any plans to fix the tennis court? Because if you
not
do,
at this time.
Well-
That's why
you
they're-
can put this on the tennis court.
Right.
exactly.
But that was one of the things that I was talking with Brian about, Natalie, was that there's this federal money that's out there, and it includes recreational facilities
Mhm.
specifically. So that's what he was going to look into.
Yeah, I'm
And
gonna
that
look
was
into
my thought
that.
process, was for those tennis courts, a pickleball court, basketball court.
Right. So we have homework for our next meeting. Is there anybody that wants to say anything about anything? Please come up.
Dean Wilson, not related to Fred, on Tulip Lane. I am really pleased that I live in a community where there is an intent to have good recreation for the citizens. I'm not pleased when I look at the financials that I've been able to see for the recreation, for the event center itself. Because the financials I've seen, by the way, do not include staff cost. So that's a hole in the financials that I've seen. And I very much would like to see the event center not make a profit, Brian, but be cost neutral.
Uh-huh.
It is not cost neutral. As I do some looking at the numbers, the few numbers that I have, and again, I don't have any kind of extensive numbers, but it looks like we run, without the cost of servicing the loan, we run about $30,000 to $40,000 in the red every year. That's my ballpark number.
Mhm.
So, okay, the question is, does the community want to spend an extra $30,000 to $40,000 for the event center? Or does the community want to figure out a way to make it cost neutral? That would be perfect from my perspective.
Mhm.
You guys are part-time, you're scrambling, I get it, it's hard work when you're part-time and you're trying to figure out how to make something happen every single day. The event center has a very, very modest amount of advertising, marketing. I just looked up the website you talked about. I had no idea there was a website. I go onto our Walton Hills website, and all it does is give me a phone number. It doesn't say, here's a website. Here's what we have. It doesn't say that at all. So marketing is a huge hole. If we want to be cost neutral, that's a decision the organization has to make, right? The community has to say, do we want to spend the money or do we want to be cost neutral? So my recommendation is, and I think everybody has a copy. If you don't have a copy of our citizen recommendations, we have plenty of paper copies for you. Can I have those, stack of those, just to make sure everybody has.
I have mine right here.
Yeah, I have one. And that-
So the bottom line recommendation, just passes them. The bottom line recommendation is that you guys are working hard, we get that, but we think that it would be helpful to have a business plan that would get us to the point of cost neutral. And to develop that business plan, I think that that's a subset of this group, maybe it's a citizen committee, to include a couple of people with strong business orientation to say, how do we help ensure that there's enough staffing, because I know that that's a whole,
sorry.
right? There's enough staffing, and that that the event center itself becomes cost neutral. Because if we look at the cost that the village is paying every year, excluding the cost of servicing the loan, we're in the hole.
Well, we're gonna be in a hole
And-
for any
and
rec
can-
program, Ms.
Can I
Nielsen.
finish for a second?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
The struggle that I have with the village being in the hole is that we put money out to support the event center, which means we don't have money for other things we need. I was online listening to a council meeting a couple weeks ago. There was a lot of going through the budgets, et cetera. And there was a discussion about road repair. And there were two areas that were under discussion. I happen to live in the Horseshoe. The Horseshoe was one of them. Hallelujah. Going to get a new road because there's going to be a new water main. There was another area. Is it called Beckley or
Barclay is.
Barclay? And so there was discussion about that. And from what I hear, those roads are really bad. All the roads are really bad today, but in general, those roads are really bad. The decision was that it would cost us, I think it was $20,000 over the course of the loan to repair Barclay Estates roads. We chose not to do that. We're in the hole every year, $30,000 minimum for the event center. We chose not to put that 20 because we didn't feel we had the money. So my concern is Barclay Estates needs their roads.
It wasn't 20,000, it was 200,000, I believe.
Well, it was a loan, but the
Remember.
servicing of the loan was $20,000. That was the discussion. And the loan was under 3%, as I remember listening to Angela. She could do that chapter and verse. My point is, if we can get to the point where the event center is cost neutral, we won't have those hard decisions. We'll be able to fix the roads. As a resident, 32 years, as a resident here, one of the things that's important to me are good roads. Now, when our citizen group put together the recommendations we just gave you, we then branched out and we asked other people, were they interested in participating in this? And so there's a list of people who participated. And I would say, how many times have you been to the event center? Over and over. Over and over again. So we have a small group of people who go to the event center. And they love it, I'm sure. I'm sure they find it very helpful. And then we have 2,200 people in this community, and you said there were 17 or 18 people that were always around for the lunches, etc. 23 maybe it was.
This week,
Yeah. We have 2,200 people in this village. We have 2,200 people in this village. So, as council people and folks who are servicing the event center, our job is to do what we can for the whole of the village. So my recommendation is we put together a committee to help get this event center to cost neutral. It's not do anything but help. You guys need help in order to market and to manage the various events that get scheduled there. You need help, I get that. But you can't get help until we get money enough to do that. And so that's what I'm recommending. I recommend that this Recreation Committee consider that, make a decision about it. If you're interested in including citizens, which I strongly suggest you do, I raise my hand, I volunteer, and I know we can find another half a dozen people who volunteer to be on a committee to help create a business plan to get us to cost neutral. That is what I'm recommending.
Okay, thank you for your recommendation. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else that wants to speak? Feel free. Let's see here. Do you guys have anything else? Your points are well taken. I just want to let you know that from where I sit, yeah, we do need to utilize it more. We could make more money off of, to bring it more cost neutral, but it's there. We didn't get in the business of renting places out. We didn't get into a Birchwood, or we didn't get into a Sherwood forest. We're doing this to defray our costs of that building, and in so doing, providing valid, solid recreational opportunities for our residents. How many people did we have at the Christmas thing?
At 175.
At 175. So people do use it. It's not a small minority of the people. People come throughout the year to use it. Yes, I agree with you. If we can make it cost neutral, that's great. We made $35,000 last year in a pandemic. Renting it a third of the time. And you talked about $40,000. We rented it a third of the weekends throughout the year. I fully believe if we can market it a little bit better, as you said, with the website, we're going to make that other $40,000. I fully believe that's going to be a non-issue in years to come, in the next few years. I fully believe it's going to be rented more. We do have to increase, we talked about the website, we do have to increase our positioning in the advertising world for it. We have to market it better. I understand that. And we will do that. But you have to understand, this is a pandemic for the last 2 years. And we were open, most places weren't. And it did take, our decision to not pay Barclay Estates was in no way, shape, or form based on the building up there. If we sold that building today, we could only sell it to a church, period. That's the zoning. Can't sell it to a business. We'd make nothing off of it. No income tax, no nothing. And I had residents in the car the other day. I know you have a difference of opinion, but I had residents in the car the other day. We passed it, and with unsolicited, they said that building is such an asset to Walton Hills. So there are differences of opinions. But we're here to work all this out and try to make that place more efficient and more productive and a better asset for the community. Because I'll be the first one to stand up and say it has been underutilized. But we also have to understand the last 2 years is a blip in our history, a bad blip. How many restaurants went out of business the last 2 years? So I am not basing anything off of the last 2 years' numbers. You can't. It's foolhardy to base something off of last 2 years and say, well, this doesn't work. So we have your recommendations, and as we progress through our meetings here, we will touch on all of these issues, and I'm here to make things better. And I know Jennifer and Fred are also. So we'll put our thinking caps on and come up with better utilization and for that place. And thank you for your interest, I appreciate it.
I did want to add, the linens on here. We got rid of that in 2020 because they were charging us for just sitting on the shelf.
Yeah,
So I got rid of them because there was people were canceling. There was no reason to pay for linens. And also, Gary he was making a salary for being at the events. So we got rid of that cost. as
right,
well.
we were paying, what was it, $1,200 a month or more?
I think so.
Yeah,
I mean,
It
that
It
was
was
the
about
cost
14,000.
yeah,
That was when I first started here in 2020.
Right.
So we got rid of those costs because everything was getting canceled
right.
in 2020. You can't even compare 2020, but if you did 35,000 through October last year, that's pretty good. I mean, it's like almost like 2018 and 19, pretty close. And that was still
And
one
we
of those
didn't-
years that people canceled. In December they were canceling, in August, when it got bad.
Right.
That's the time that things just start to change.
Well, again, looking at the numbers, and I'm not going to beat this horse because it's 9 o'clock. It's half hour past our adjourn time. $35,000 last year for renting the place a third of the time through a pandemic. And we're talking about we're $40,000 short. I believe that money is going to be made up. We do have to market better. We do have to place some things in, put some things in place as far as what we're doing with the police. Maybe get a service person there to monitor and things like that. But there's no reason to believe that it's not going to be rented at least half of the year or more when this all ends. Is there anything else you guys have to say?
No, but the one thing that Mrs. Nielsen was talking about, the road program,
Yeah.
that was going to be Barclay Estates and the roof.
That was
Tell me if I'm wrong.
$400,000.
Well, the roof
Yeah,
alone
it
was
wasn't
$400,000.
$20,000.
Yes,
Yeah.
the roof alone was 400, but
Right.
between the roof and Barclay Estates, it would have been almost $1 million added into our debt.
Right.
Yeah, that was-
Yeah,
that's the way
So that
I
was,
heard it.
yeah, it wasn't, if it was $20,000, it would have.
no, but we did allow
We would have done it.
$50,000 to make
We increased it
repairs for right
$50,000,
now.
yeah.
Stuff, so.
And we are, as a village, $200,000 in the black this year, budgeted, correct? Or we ended up,
We're
correct me,
hoping to be.
Jennifer.
We're hoping to be.
Yeah, and last year, where did we
We
end up?
don't have the finals yet,
Yeah, but.
but I think it was over 40.
Yeah, and then projected somewhere around in the black 200,000
Right.
this year.
Right.
So, we are watching, and believe me, your input is valued and it is under consideration, and we'll talk about everything as we move along.
Brian, yeah.
Oh, come on up.
Okay, first of all, thank you all for.
Name and address, please, just for the
Jenny
record.
Harkness,
Thank you.
120 Hickory. Thank you all for your time and consideration. Beyond making the building cost neutral, we still have a loan to service that, if I'm not mistaken, is probably about $450,000. Is that a fairly accurate number?
It's accurate, yes, sir. Yeah, I believe so.
$450,000 on it, and I
Yeah.
understand that the interest on that loan is 3%. So beyond making everything, as we say, cost neutral, which is a really good idea, I think it would be good to look for ways to bring in more money, doing all these things we're talking about, marketing, advertising, doing rentals, anything you can do to bring in revenue. I understand that it is not meant to be a business, it's not meant to be a profit center, that's fine. But if we can get that place to be cost neutral and bring in enough revenue to get that loan paid off,
Sure.
that would be magnificent.
I
And
agree
then-
with you,
And then, after that, my goodness, If people are having a good time over there, everybody's enjoying it, it's working really great, and we don't owe any more money on it, you could always stop taking rentals, you know? You don't need to bring in any more revenue once you've already got the loan paid off and everybody's having fun over there. And if there's any extra money left, by that time, I don't know how long it would take to get to that point, but if it ever gets to that point, and there's another $50,000 in the bank, and you don't want to show a profit, fix the parking lot, remodel the place, do something like that to keep it up and make it looking good. Also too, as far as I know, I've been a resident not as long as Lee, only 17 years, but I've never heard of a situation where there has ever been a citizens, let's say, committee to be involved with other committees. I don't know that that's ever happened. I think it would really be a good idea. The citizens that I know of that would be interested in participating in that committee are just trying to help you guys to succeed at what you're trying to do. We're playing on the same team.
Sure, they're always welcome to come up here
Well, I
at
know
our
that.
meetings and
I know
and
that,
discuss things.
but my question is, would you be interested in having a citizens committee? I'm not gonna say that we're like advisors or anything like that, but I believe that when people have a common goal, which I think we all do, you know, people come up with ideas.
Well,
And
it just,
Ideas breed ideas.
Right.
Energy breeds energy. And, okay, you got this many people here, but then you got more people there. The more people that are involved, the more energy you can build, and the more successful we can make this whole thing be. You guys can decide, but I think that having a citizens committee, in fact, I was at a meeting where everybody was making suggestions about what to do. Ray Whedon sat right here and said, hey, it would be a good idea to have citizens get involved in these things. I agree with that 100%. It's up to you to decide, but if you decide that's a good idea, I know people that would be willing to participate in it.
thank you. They're more than willing to contact us and let us know. That'd be great.
Well, listening to Lee, you know, you're saying that they're willing to be involved in putting their input in there, which is great. But at the same time, she said that zero times they've been there.
There's 0 times.
Well, come on down and see what it is first, you know, before, you know, you want to make recommendations, that's great, but come to the events, see what's going on there, see what it's like.
Yeah,
I mean, we
why
have,
wasn't
you
anybody
know,
at the Christmas
Christmas,
event? Why wasn't
it was-
anybody at the Halloween
Yeah, the
event? Why
Christmas
wasn't anybody-
party was terrific. I mean, the job they did, and the Halloween party, and on and on. I mean, it's there for all. I mean, it's there for people to see. So when you're gonna make recommendations for something, I mean, it probably would be, you know, good to attend some of the events.
I've been to those events.
I know.
Yeah.
You've
But,
seen me there.
but you have, you know, I'm just saying, said that these people that she talked to have been to 0. And when you say that, I mean, you know, that makes me think, you know, I've lived here over 60 years. I've been to a few events
You're
here.
not even that old.
No, well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Hark, I appreciate it, and we really do appreciate
No, I appreciate it,
the
you
input
know.
in that. And
No.
if anybody in the ether world out there, or any of your residents want to give me a call and say, hey, I've got an idea or whatever, right now we're dealing with this stuff, and as we move on, we can't tackle everything in one night. So as we move on, people have suggestions and whatever, we'll gladly take those recommendations. I don't have any problem doing that.
Let's keep working.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
With all due respect to everybody too, I think one of the most important things is we need to get our Parker program settled first. I mean, we are trying to do it in conjunction with handling the event center, but
Yeah.
I think we need to,
That's a
which is why we're
priority,
having
'cause
another
that's on
meeting
the-
next week, you know, for it
Right.
at 5:30, but
If anybody wants to come to lunch, it's Thursday.
Lunch on
Give me a call.
Thursday?
what are you
The
having?
event center.
Stuffed cabbage.
Stuffed cabbage,
I'll be
yeah.
there.
All in favor of closing the meeting? Say aye.
Aye.
I didn't hear you.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
21. 13.
Stream will not immediately.